Welcome back to the Swimmingly Show. I'm Hayes Johnson.
And I'm Charlie Houchin. Good to see everyone. We're here to talk about the sport that we love, and we're not here to sugarcoat it. We're not giving you M&Ms today.
From neighborhood pools, summer league swimming, to the Olympics, we've seen just about every angle in the sport. And today's topic might step on a few toes.
So let's talk about you year-round families. This year-round thing, is it helping kids become better athletes? Maybe. Yes, we think it should be. Or are we pushing them too much too soon? Yes, we think it is.
All right, man. Well, let's dive in. Let's get going.
So here's a crazy number to start with. Half of youth swimmers, so this is just swimmers, report overuse injuries. So you're talking about individuals that haven't even gotten to college. Half of them in our sport have injuries from overuse. Crazy, huh?
Yeah. And yet we have a bunch of 7-year-olds training 10, 11, 12 months a year. Somewhere along the lines, more became the default for some reason.
Yeah.
Swimming more, training more.
Yeah.
It just
More
became a
practices,
yeah.
more meets, more pressure, right?
Yeah. And somehow less is fun. So if you're an 8-year-old swims, I don't know, 11 months out of the year and still cries before practice or after, it might not be, that's not really commitment, I would say. I'd say it's more exhaustion.
Yeah, the issue isn't they're not committed enough; it's that they're exhausted. It's not exhaustion is not a badge of honor, guys. For 12-year-olds, for
I like
8-year-olds,
that.
for your 15-year-olds, exhaustion in the sport. This is not a badge of honor. So, Hayes, let's do. Hayes, tell us about you growing up in year round. When did you make the jump from summer swimming to year round?
Yeah, I mean, I started summer swimming when I was 4, like a lot of people do. And that's where I fell in love with the sport. I did it every single year up until I was 18 years old. But when I made the transition to year round swimming, like fully committed, I would say. I mean, we can define what fully committed means later, but I'd say I made that jump. I personally committed to making that jump when I was 12. So before that, I was playing soccer, I was playing basketball, I was playing football, flag football. Man, I love flag football. You name it. Honestly, that variety made me love swimming when I finally committed, I think.
Interesting. So, what was it about the other sports, the cross training effect, if you can call it that, for such a young athlete at the time? Tell us, did that help you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was actually on a podcast with You Think the other day, and I somehow off the top of my head, this statement came out, and I said, failure isn't final. And what I mean by that, in other sports, I was learning to fail pretty quickly. In basketball, I remember my middle school basketball championships like it was yesterday. And
Yeah.
there were times where I was given the ball to make a shot to win the game. I missed. Okay, I failed. But the coolest thing about that is I failed on the basketball court, and then when I went to the pool to swim, I kind of forgot about it.
Yeah.
I was able to get in the pool and swim and focus on the pool. And I was like, all right, well, that's behind me. And so when I got to the pool, it was like I was in a new world. So it was nice.
Yeah. Learning resilience in a completely different environment. It's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, there were many times when I would cry in the car because, I was either with my mom or my dad and I was upset about a practice. The next practice, I showed up ready to work regardless. And so all of those failures in the other sport, like I said, taught me how to handle pressure in the pool. And so when I think it was time to make the jump to swimming, I had this perspective of failure and committing to a different sport that I
Yeah.
wouldn't have had otherwise.
So talk about the infamous car rides home after a game or practice. How did your parents handle that? Because it's a pivotal time in any youth athlete's chapter, whether it's basketball or swimming. The car ride home, parents have this captive audience. It's the swimmer or the basketball player in the back seat, and you can kind of make or break the experience for them. How did your parents handle that?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. I remember a lot of them. I don't remember a lot of them, but I do remember very many. And I think one thing about, my family growing up, there were 5 of us, so my mom was trying to get us to different practices. I had swimming, Pat had soccer, Neil had baseball. It was just crazy. And so my mom was never the one to sit at practice and watch. We know there are those swim parents out there that, sit in the bleachers and watch swim practice. So
Mhm.
she actually did a wonderful job. And there were many that were silent, but she would just say, what was your favorite thing about practice?
Right.
And there were many times where I would say things like, it being over, or but there were also times where I was like, hey, I got to grind in a set with my buddies and we got better for it. So there were a lot of things where I learned that sometimes silence was better than not. And then if my mom did want to keep prying, she would in the right way. She just love her to death, she just didn't know much about swimming. So she was just making sure that I was happy at the end of the day.
Yeah, I tell when I talk to parents at a, a banquet or an award ceremony or go to talk with a particular team. I'm talking with a team here in North Carolina 2 weeks from now on a Saturday morning. And the thing that I love to tell parents is the car ride home, the infamous car ride home, or after a meet or after a game. The best thing, the most valuable thing that you can say, and I make all the parents stand up and say, repeat after me. You say, I loved watching you swim today. I enjoyed watching you play that game today. And that's it. And then have everyone just take a seat. And it's just a powerful phrase that just instills confidence in the athlete. It allows them space to take ownership of it. You can say, I enjoyed watching you swim today, and it could have been the worst swim of the swimmer's life. But you have space for that athlete, whether they're 8 or 18, to have ownership over that. And you know that you have a parent at the end of the day that, regardless of the outcome, the result, they're focused on the journey by saying, I enjoyed watching you swim today. And I always use that in my talks with parents because it's powerful. And I think even the most seasoned parent that's been through 5 kids and multiple sports can stand to benefit from that reminder of, I enjoyed watching you swim today.
Yeah, and then I mean, one of the most pivotal, talks with my mom in the car, it was her really gearing toward, do you love swimming enough to continue doing it? And I was like, you know what? I'm actually ready to focus on swimming. And I think she asked me the perfect question at the time. She said, "Are you sure you don't have to decide right now?" And that's what really gave me a lot of confidence to commit. And
Mhm.
because it was at the end of the day, it was my choice.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think the outcome would have been if she had pushed the choice on you as opposed to you bringing up the choice?
I definitely would have resented swimming. I probably would have resented her. And either way, I mean, I don't think I would have ended up where I ended up at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, tell us about, let's segue us into the next section here.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about the car rides home and stuff. And I think what's really important is making sure that your kids are enjoying the sport. Like, you can't fall behind in a sport you're supposed to enjoy. And so as
Mhm.
long as, parents listening, coaches listening, just checking in and pulse checking on these athletes, and ensure and make sure that they're enjoying the sports. Yeah, that's it.
You always say if you're not doing X or you're not achieving X or committed to the level of X in, swimming or in another sport by this age, you're going to fall behind. And you always say, behind who? For what? And you're not missing a scholarship, parents, at 8 years old. You might be missing recess, but you're not going to miss a scholarship. It's okay.
Yeah, and recess is where you learn to want to play, and that at the end of the day is what's going to keep you in the sport later.
Yeah. So talking about keeping people in the sport, maybe the negative side, the shadowy side of things. Let's call this what it is. Why this is happening. The unhealthy side of this is because the whole system feeds itself. It has to feed itself. It's a business at the end of the day, these coach-owned year-round programs. And if not done in a healthy way, this turns into a cycle where it just kind of has to feed itself.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you said it totally. Like, clubs need retention,
Mhm.
so they want kids in the water all year round. I get it, and parents see other families doing it, so they might feel pressured to join it. Like, I see that all the time at summer swimming. Well, so and so's doing year round swimming. Should I join year round?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a game of the where you got to one up the other program in town, or the kids are going to jump ship because the families see, oh, it looks like this coach does less, this team doesn't work as hard, they're the less serious team, they're the more recreational team, and that's
And that's
usually
it.
pejorative,
Yeah.
which is
I mean,
which is
yeah, that's
unhealthy,
it.
and
I mean,
everyone
we've
just
we've we've
pushing for more
totally
and
we've
more.
yeah, we've totally confused the volume matter with value. So more hours doesn't mean better swimmers. And that's where people, I think, get so stuck. It's like, well, Johnny's over there doing 5 times a week. He's getting better at age 8. It's like, okay,
Yeah, and then
And I think
burnout
that's
happens, and we're like, "Well, how did this happen? Well, I can't understand why this kid doesn't enjoy the sport anymore. He's been going to 2 practices every day since he was 8 years old and always seemed fine and progressed, and why does he wanna walk away from the sport at 13 years old?" Like, because you keep treating childhood like it's a pipeline to the NFL or to the Olympic level of swimming, that's why.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at all these young kids that jump into year round early, you're training a 10-year-old like a pro,
Right.
like we swam in college. I mean, that's exactly how you're seeing this burnout. It's like they
Yeah.
they don't need to be.
Yeah. You know, one of my favorite business books has a great line, and it says, "A startup or a small company is not a small version of a big company." And I think the same principle can be applied to youth sports. Your journey in youth sports is not a scaled down version of what the athletes at the professional level are doing. That is the exact wrong way to think about it. That is the antithetical version. That's the version that we are casting stones at here. It's not a pared down, slimmed down version of what the great athletes at the professional level are doing. You have to think about it in a completely different way. And I think sometimes the danger is the system feeding itself. It keeps going and it keeps moving, and it's easy to just reverse engineer. Well, if this works for a 18-year-old, 20-year-old in college, then it's going to work for a 15 or 16-year-old because they want to get there. And if that's true, then we're going to reverse engineer it another 2 or 3 years down to that 12-year-old and then the 8-year-old. And I'm here to tell you that that doesn't work. Those are the kids that you see that break a state record when they're 8, that at 10 years old, all the other parents are so envious, like, oh my gosh, Johnny, he is the rock star. And then at 13 years old, Johnny walks off the pool deck, never to be seen again. And they're like, I just can't believe what happened to Johnny? Like, he was on track to be, well, he wasn't on track. And I hate that myth. He was never on track to go to the Olympics. And everyone has a story like this. He was never on track to go to the Olympics because you were focused, the system, the coach, the parents were focused and made him focus on being a standout superstar 10-year-old. And like in raising kids, we're not trying to raise great children. We're trying to raise great children to become adults. And we're trying to focus on the journey here. And so you might have caused Johnny to have a 10-year-old swimming career, but then don't be surprised when he falls off the map at 13 and just voluntarily chooses to walk away.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. I look at all these summer swimming kids that I coach, and you get all types of swimmers, and you definitely get the ones that are focused on year round swimming early. And there's a good example a few years ago. I remember it well because he was just an absolute stud,
Yeah, this is
absolute
this
stud.
is what
10
I'm
years,
talking
yeah,
exactly.
absolute stud at 10 years old. Like I could swim him up to the 13, 14s and he would compete. He'd beat all the 11, 12 year olds. He was that good. And, on paper, I think it was a coach's dream, but his parents had him doing year round swimming when he turned like 6 or 7 years old. And that's
Mhm.
all I heard. Like, oh, well, he's got practice with this club knack and blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay. And by the time he got to me, he was already swimming year round, doing dry land twice a week, private lessons on the side. And I could see it. I could see it from far away. The kid smoked.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
mean,
so at 10, I'm sure you could guess exactly what happened. His 13th birthday rolled around and he,
surprise.
yeah, just walked away. I mean,
Yeah.
didn't finish the season. I mean, he was just ready to be done.
Yep. I mean, it's those kinds of swimmers where everyone's sitting there in the stands, or coach or mom or dad are thinking about, man, is he going to go swim at Michigan or is he going to go swim at Texas? And that kid's mindset is so far removed from that. He can't bear to get to practice at age 13, much less finish swimming through his high school years, whether club or high school. And everyone has these expectations that sometimes it's just subconsciously they start to place on the athlete. And that's why I go back to the parents' job. They got one job, and that's to say, I enjoyed watching you swim. And then after that, parents, just shut up.
I know. And, the mom, I remember talking to her and it was fine. Like they had gotten past it. He moved on to other sports. Great. And she had just told me, she was like, you know what? He told me he felt like he'd been swimming his whole life and never got a break. I
Yeah.
mean, and that's at 13 years old. So I think it just seems like we're professionalizing childhood And I don't think many people will win from that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's a good line. We're professionalizing childhood. Yeah, the kids are exhausted, the parents are drained, but they think they're doing the right thing. And then the coaches get blamed at the end of the day because they're the one that's, so why isn't my kid getting better?
Right.
He was improving so much. He just needs to keep exponentially improving. And then the coaches get blamed. And, it's this vicious cycle because the coaches need the swimmers. Will be the first to want new swimmers and retention for all the programs, but it's this exhausting cycle. And it's built around a practice driven stare at the black line model. And we're just trying to shake people free from that. So maybe we'll talk about that more in a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. We can move on to, this parent trap that we're kind of alluding to. I think if you're listening and your kid is doing year round right now, you might feel a little defensive, and I'd say that's okay.
And maybe you're saying this. You're saying something like, okay, my kid's coach said if they don't train this much or year round or with this frequency each week, they're going to fall behind. And so other families are doing it, they're buying into it. How do I know if I'm holding them back, or is holding them feeling like I'm holding them back part of that? Where's the line there?
Yeah, I mean, that's real. I think the fear is totally legitimate. Nobody wants to be the reason their kid doesn't reach their potential, and I think that's accurate.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's definitely a fine line between pushing your kid in the right direction and forcing them to go to practice.
Yeah. And there's multiple things at play here because clubs need year-round swimmers to stay financially viable. They need to offer value and benefits in a way that aren't driven in the old school stare at the black line all the time way. And so it turns into coaches are trying to retain the athletes, and the parents are told that commitment means never taking a break. And I mean, which
Yeah,
it's a vicious cycle, right?
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, and I think it's just like you said, it is a closed loop, and once you're in it, it almost feels impossible to get out. So
Yeah. Yeah. One analogy that I like is um it's like, well, everyone else jumps off a bridge. Would you do it? That's a good one. But the analogy I think that might be helpful for parents here listening is when you watch the Kentucky Derby, you have all those thoroughbreds out there, and they're the peak horses, that year, and they can run in a way that only the 1% of 1% of horses can run. And then when that gate opens, one of the primary things that the jockey is doing is holding the horse back. They're not going full out. They're intentionally, and they're having to intentionally hold the horse back. They're pulling the reins, right? And I'm not an expert on the Kentucky Derby or equine stuff here, but they're actively telling the horse through their body language, it's not time yet. It's not time yet. And the horse wants it more, and they're ready to go, and they get down into the turn of the back stretch or the final stretch, and they let them go. And that's a good analogy, I think, to think of with these swimmers doing multi sports, these athletes doing other sports. You want to feel a sense of, I'm kind of pulling the reins back. I got to get the sense that they want this. I got to get these indicators, these cues from my kids that, hey, I really like, football. I want to do more of that and less of this. Or, hey, I really like swimming. I want to do more of this. And they get older, and they get to that age where they're like, this really is my commitment now. I really want to invest all of my athletic time in swimming or these other sports. And I think you can only get there. And it sounds, counterintuitive, but you got to have this sense of being able to pull them back. And it's got to start with the parents, because once they're out that door, the coaches are going to be pushing them, usually, in right, healthy ways, wanting them to achieve, wanting them to hit their goals. And their job is to do this, cast the vision, show them the mountaintop, and help push and
yeah,
pull to get them there. And I think the parent at home is going to start with the pulling it back, making sure that that desire and that drive is coming from that swimmer. And that looks different for 8 years old, looks different 10 years old than 12, than 14 and 15.
yeah, and that's exactly right. And with all that being said, and we mentioned it earlier, parents listening, you definitely don't want to be the one who costs them their dream or anything like that. And I don't think you need to feel like
Right. Right. But overtraining them before they're developmentally ready is the thing that's going to cost them their dream. We all,
yeah,
every single one of us, doesn't matter what sport it is, we all have the story of the kid, like I said a minute ago, the kid that Well, he would have been great. She would have been great, but, and then you fill in the blank about, this, that, and the other. And it boils down to overuse, injury, overtraining, being pushed too hard, too much too early. And it's really a tale as old as time. So it's a classic. You got to work smarter, not harder. And the parent has to have the emotional intelligence of the situation to understand that more is not better. You got to work smarter, not harder. You got to be the one pulling those reins back for your kid to protect them, to make sure it's their decision. Because when you send them out into the wild, coach is pushing them, teammates are pushing them, competitors are pushing them. But for the best athletes, they're pushing themselves. And so you are that hedge of protection that they really need at home before they walk out that door.
Yeah. So Charlie, what actually happens when, a parent pulls the reins back, when the kids take a break? Let's talk about that a little bit.
They come back faster, better, stronger. Um, it's the rest allowing the body to adapt. And it's overlooked even today, even with the additional talk about recovery. It's still underestimated and it's underrated. Just the adaptation process that has to be a part of those natural weekly or monthly cycles, even for a young athlete.
Yeah. I mean, even in summer swimming, it's so fun to see. You have these young kids that literally only swim in the summer, right?
Mhm.
And they're definitely, on the younger side, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9. Swim during the summer. Each week they get faster. Take the entire fall and spring off. Come back the next year. Guess what happens?
Yeah,
They keep dropping time.
exactly. And they're
I mean,
having
they're
fun.
smiling. They're having the best time, dude. It's awesome.
Yep. They want to be there. They like the leadership role as they get older because they have the perspective to be looking at their teammates and the competitors and the qualities they learn by doing that instead of just being so exclusively focused on me, and improvement and nose to the grindstone. In that cycle, that with the body adaptation, the mental adaptation is really powerful and it continues to be underrated.
Yeah. So I'd say, parents, here's the test. I mentioned it earlier tonight. If you've got those kids at practice on the drive home from practice, I would ask your kid, what was your favorite part about practice today?
And if they light up and tell you about a relay or a technique they figured out or a joke to their friend, that is a good cue that you're good. You're on track. You're doing your
Yeah.
job as the parent of an athlete.
Yeah. And if they can't answer it, or they say, I'm just happy it's over, that was awful, I'd say that's your sign,
Mhm.
maybe a moment to have a different conversation and see what they think about moving into other sports right now or taking a little break from swimming.
All right. So the great thing is there's a lot of investment these days in youth sports. There's a lot of studies being done around youth sports and the benefits and the unhealthy parts. And so there's a lot of data on this. There's a lot of studies on this now, but you don't need studies to know it. It's kids who play multiple sports, kids who are actively involved in natural cycles of different sports and different seasons here and there are healthier, they stay in sports longer, they perform better later, and that's when they have the propensity to then excel exclusively in that one sport. Because I know every
Yeah.
parent wants to know about that part. But
Yeah.
first, they're healthier, they're happier, they're staying in sports longer, and then they have that launch pad to have the longevity in their chosen field.
Yeah, and mentally, they just straight up handle pressure better. You see it. The multi-sport kids know how to compete without melting down. I mean, because they experience it in a ton of different sports. The
Yeah.
team aspect on different sports. They can see how these kids are reacting to losses or wins, meltdowns, all of that stuff. So they've failed before in other sports, in basketball, soccer, whatever it is. So they're understanding growth whole lot faster in a different setting, which is cool.
That's it. Single sport kids, great at 10 years old, mentally done at 15, especially swimming. The lack of competition, the lack of structured play and swim meets. If you're a single sport athlete and it's just swimming, you are doing however many practices times however many weeks in between each competition. Think about that mental buildup and that mental stress and that fatigue. And that one swim, those maybe 4 swims at a meet every 2 months or 3 months after dozens and dozens and dozens of practices, like that is just built up emotional weight that swimmer is carrying behind the blocks. And the expectation to perform is already on themselves. That intrinsic expectation and pressure they're putting on themselves. Now couple that with the fact that they don't get to compete very often. Parents are in the stands. Maybe there's unnecessary pressure added from parents or coach, and you really just have this ticking time bomb.
Yeah. I mean, when they're not in other sports, they might struggle to develop these coping skills outside of one environment. So if they're literally
Right.
stuck in the swimming pool, stuck in that, hamster wheel, practice, 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 dry land, practice, swimming just becomes their identity. And I've seen, young kids that go hard in swimming at a young age and they almost become robotic.
Yeah.
They just do. And so it's interesting to see the multi-sport kids who come in and they pat their friends on the back. They're saying good job. They're getting them pumped up for relays because they do have that team experience elsewhere.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I think baseball is a good example. Baseball, I watch my nephew play baseball right now. And part of baseball when you're 8 years old is practicing to strike out. You are learning to strike out on a regular basis at games. Like it's just a part of baseball. You're hitting 300. That's really good, but you're still striking out a lot. And it's good to learn to fail in those productive and healthy ways. And with swimming, with nothing else to fall back on, it just becomes, well, I'm just going to work harder. I'm going to stare at the black line longer. And it's just this diminishing return to the point of fatigue and exhaustion. And I know cliche burnout being that cliche phrase, but it's true. It's true.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, multi-sport athletes, they don't just perform better, they will last longer. We can get moving on.
Cool, cool. All right. But the thing, Hayes, has been staring us in the face around this multi sport, too much, too soon conversation is that we have the model in swimming that's worked for forever, and that is summer league swimming.
Yeah. I mean, you got a couple practices a day or a couple practices a week into one meet a week. Kids are over the moon excited to race. It's just a quick, amazing summer of fun competition.
Exactly. Fast improvements, smiling, cheering, eating popsicles after the race. The parents aren't losing their mind about scholarships. Maybe one is, but it's a healthy community environment, and the kids just feed off of that.
Yeah, these kids are, I mean, the kids, the families, the meets, the experience, it's all pretty electric. I mean, a lot of people listening probably are involved in summer swimming at some capacity, but it really is just completely different than the year-round model. And they do a lot of right things. They got, music going, they got team chants, all the fun relays. It just feels like, I don't know, like a Friday night lights football game.
Exactly. And then you make the jump to traditional year-round teams, and the lights go down, and everything gets a little gloomy, and we got to be in the water by the top, or you're going to do push-ups, and everything gets very serious at that point.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie, you take this summer league model that does such a good job, and there are millions of swimmers doing it,
Yeah,
opposed to the 370,000 USA registered swimmers.
right.
I mean, imagine if you can really bottle this up,
Mhm.
for a 10, 11, 12-year-old, and they can live in this world just a little bit longer, maybe in a
Yep.
different setting. I mean, you've got these short summer seasons, but I think there's probably a way to keep going,
I
throughout the year, weekly meets, short practices,
I
more
think
play.
there's I think there's a way too. I think we're a little biased there,
Yeah.
where they actually want to keep swimming. I mean, yeah, and in the defense of the year-round coach, they have the system that needs to feed itself. They want to keep the swimmers there, but their only deliverable today is more practices, more water time, more attention from coach for technique and skill. And we're here to tell you that that is not the way to build the base of your program. There is a better way to do that. And it doesn't have to do with more practice, more water, more staring at the black line. And it's a way that's going to actually keep kids wanting to swim past 12 or 13 years old.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. The secret to keeping kids in swimming isn't more hours, isn't more practices, it's more joy. So let's bottle up what we have and figure out how to create that somewhere else.
Yep. And what's our phrase? What do we tell them?
Which phrase? I feel like we tell them a lot of things.
You do this once a week and you do this once a week.
You practice once a week and you play once a week.
So let's break it down. In every other youth sport, Hayes is right. The kids practice that week and then they play the game that week. They play basketball, etc. You practice each week, you play each week. Practice, play. So the ratio is 1 to 1 every week, practice to play. But in swimming,
It's completely backwards.
yeah. So 5, 6 days a week, sometimes twice a day to compete 4 times a year, 4 times a year. But let's say we're off by half and it's 8 times a year. You're training, the number of times you're training in a week could be the number of times that you're actually playing in an entire year. It's ridiculous.
So you're telling me off that statement that there are 10-year-old kids out there grinding through 250 plus practices to swim in a handful of races.
Yeah. So breaking down that math, you're talking about hundreds and hundreds of practices every year for maybe a dozen meets or races that, that they get to go do. That's the model. That's what's normalized. And it's insane when you say it out loud.
Yeah. I mean, here's what kills me. When you bring this up to coaches, they immediately go to, well, we can't just run meets whenever we want. There's sanctioning. There's probably an insurance piece. There's getting officials and refs. There's USA swimming rules.
And
I
it's
mean,
all
completely defensive right away.
bureaucratic nonsense. It's complete nonsense. I mean, coaches, we've had that conversation. You're not a victim of your circumstances. Be a victor. You don't need permission from an organization or an insurance company or some third party somewhere to give you permission to run your program correctly. Sanctioning is not the anointment from on high that there's something special and magical about a meet. In fact, the evidence that we have from the last 40 years suggests that it's just the opposite. If you're looking for permission to allow your athletes to play in the sport, you're doing it wrong.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you know what you can do? You can probably run a meet at your own pool on a Saturday morning or a Friday, whenever works best for you guys. No sanctioning. I mean, do summer leagues sanction their meets? Do kids keep coming back and racing faster and having fun?
They sanction it by this. They sanction it by having a great crowd with a positive community and a fun atmosphere. And they say, this is fun. Boom, there's your sanction. Fun and official. And guess what? The data supports it because there's millions of swimmers doing it that way instead of 380,000 registered USA swimmers. So we gotta, it's not that USA Swimming can't have that. It's USA Swimming should have that. You got to bottle that up. You got to learn that lesson.
Yeah. We don't need, even for fun little short meets, we don't need the officials, kids just racing and having fun. I mean, the sanctioning stuff can just be exhausting. We do understand that there are parents out there and coaches that will say, well, these times won't count. Will count for what? I mean, this is an opportunity for the kid to get up there and swim a time and gain and build confidence knowing that he can go a certain time. That in itself is more important than having this sanctioned time go to a database and it's official. Like, if I have kids that are going to get up and race in practice and they do go best times and they know that, I know that they're confident now. I know that they know they can go fast. And that's what would matter to me most as a coach.
Yeah, exactly. This is the value driven proposition that we're talking about for programs to grow in a way other than just more practice, more water, more staring at the black line. So for example, when we think of a traditional swim meet, it's at a different pool, you got to drive there. We've talked about this before. It's not that stuff should go away. It has its place and purpose, but here's a good way to connect and think about it if you're a current year-round coach. You would call this a time trial. You would call this an inter-squad meet. But you need to think of those inter-squad meets or those time trials, if you will, the ones that you run in-house at your practice during practice time. You need to be doing 10 of those for every meet that swimmer is going to. And we're not talking about just the 6-year-olds. We're not talking about treating it less than. It's a fundamental building block where you're having, again, the practice to play ratio. You call it a time trial, call it an inter-squad meet. The concept in swimming, here's the problem. We think of a swim meet and we say we can't have a swim meet unless we have not just one swim team, but swim teams. It's not a meet, it's not a competition unless there are multiple teams. This is mythology. Your team alone, your group should be having a swim meet with competition between your athletes every single week. Again, we used to think of that as a time trial or an inter-squad meet, but that is what needs to be packaged and bottled up as the commercial launching pad to growing the base for the success of your program.
Yeah, I mean, Because at the end of the day, it's a race. It's still racing. The kids are competing, like you said. They're gonna get the adrenaline rush, and they get to see if their practice is paying off, and that's the most
Exactly.
important piece.
Yeah, and they deserve to have that feedback cycle every single week, every single week. So we've got kids training 250 practices to swim 12 races, as we said. That's not a sport. That's a hamster wheel, everybody. That's a hamster. So here's the thing, old guard year-round coaches who've been around 30 years, maybe you're listening, maybe you already turned it off, maybe you don't like this conversation. It's not that we're trying to change you, it's that we're trying to add layers to your program so that you can focus on the things you want to focus on.
Yeah, and it's only a challenge, and everything they've built on their programs is good. Like, it's not a bad thing. We're just saying we want to challenge these coaches and these norms and say we can change these in the right way, and we can create an experience that is so much better for the kids coming out of Learn to Swim or Summer League Swimming.
That's right. Coaches, traditional year-round coach, you've been there 30 years, you founded the program. Think about it this way. Your program, your swim team is a pyramid. Most of you guys, because we've talked to all of you, want to focus on the top of the pyramid, the sectional swimmers, the national level swimmers, the Olympic trials swimmers, and deservedly so. Your premier expertise and technical knowledge deserves to be at the top of the pyramid. That makes sense. But the younger coaches, and you're not just running a swim group, you're running a business. And if you don't run the business, you don't get to run the group at the top. So delegate. Younger coaches in your program or newly starting programs, the ones coaching the 8-year-olds, the 6-year-olds, the 10-year-olds, delegate to them. Or if you're one of those people, grab onto this concept. This is how you grow the program so that you have the opportunity to teach the talent at the top. This is how smart, savvy coaches start a program. If you want to be a smart, savvy coach, heed this call. A big, broad, financial, lucrative base for your program is the way to get the top talent in your program and to get them to the top of the sport.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, because these kids don't, at a young age, these kids don't need to be training like the national teamers or the Olympians or whatever. They need to be racing like kids. They
Yeah,
need to be competing and racing like kids.
exactly. Then head coach, focus on the senior group, the championship kids, fine. But you can do that knowing that you have the business layer here at the base being taken care of by somebody that has the passion for it, that has the business mind for it, that understands that our developmental program success is the lifeblood for the entire swim program.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And the coaches who understand that a fun, short meet at the home pool on a Saturday morning does more for a 9-year-old's development than 2 more hours of drill work, like,
Yeah,
that's it.
I think that's so crucial that there's such a fight and a pushback and friction against this. But just say that again for everybody's benefit, Hayes.
Yeah. So the coaches, I mean, the coaches who truly understand it, maybe they do come from summer swimming or a different program, a Learn to Swim, whatever. But the coaches who understand that a fun short meet at their home pool, something they're familiar with on a Saturday, does more for a 9-year-old's development than 2 more hours or 3 or 4 more hours of drill work during the week.
And I know this may come as a shock to some of you, but if you're playing in the sport, if you're racing, if you're at a swim meet, if you're in a competition off the blocks, you're practicing the sport. You are practicing doing the proper start. You're practicing doing the turns, etc. This whole idea of like, well, now we're just going to race over here, and that is completely unrelated. No, you're practicing swimming fast. What could be better for an 8-year-old than learning to apply the skills directly by swimming fast and practicing to swim fast with that structured play? It makes so much sense. Furthermore, you're doing it at your own pool. You're practicing in an environment, you're playing in the same environment that you're practicing in. So making those resources you have fun for structured play is as easy as just doing it at your pool during practice time, and you make it a play session. You don't need a state-of-the-art 50-meter facility. In fact, your swimmers are going to be more at home. They're going to be more excited to compete in the pool that they practice in because they're familiar with it. A 6-year-old isn't intimidated. They don't want to be at the natatorium at the college swimmers swim at. They want to be at their home pool. So give them the play session at their home pool.
Yeah. So I mean, if those young kids are training 6 days a week, but only competing, I don't know, 4 times a year, you're probably doing it backwards. So here's the model that actually works for young swimmers. Get them practicing less, competing more, let them do other sports during the school year. And hopefully you don't have the coaches who will shame those swimmers for not being at practice when they're that young.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. All right. We want clip 10.
I just went past that. All right. So after talking about this amazing model, hopefully getting teams intrigued and interested in practicing a little less and competing a whole lot more, what do we actually do about it? Let's get practical.
Yeah. So first, protect the swimmer's childhood. Let them play other sports, ride bikes around the neighborhood, have off seasons, if you will. If they love swimming, they're going to tell you and they're going to want to come back to it. So number one is you got to protect their childhood.
Yeah. And just like, a summer swim season, when they're done with summer swim season, what are they going to do in the fall? They're probably going to play another sport. So try it. Have fall be for soccer or cross country or whatever it is in your neck of the woods. Winter's for basketball or wrestling. Spring is for track, whatever it is. Summer is for swimming, and find a program that treats it like that.
I mean, think about that, what you just said, Hayes. That's 4 sports in 1 year, 12 months. It's a short amount of time. It's a very short amount of time for young kids. But think of the level of exposure they've had. They're doing basketball and swimming and football and track or whatever. That's a huge amount of exposure to sport, different coaches in a variety of ways. I think lots of different coaches is key. Different muscle groups being worked for different sports, obviously. Making different friends, understanding how competition works in an individual sport versus a team sport. This is just, and you can do all of that. You can bottle that up in 12 months' time and think of the information and the knowledge you've given your child. It's very powerful.
Yeah. And by that time, I mean, they're 13 or 14, just like me and you. They'll know what they love most.
Yeah.
Like, then they can commit. Sure as hell knew that I was ready to commit all the way to swimming at 14 years old, without a doubt, because I had a lot of exposure to a lot of different sports.
Yeah. And it's their choice, not yours. You can be guiding behind the scenes, but you'll know when it's their choice.
Yeah. And second, we need to change how we schedule these meets. Instead of 2, 3, 4 high pressure, big weekend meets a season, let's focus on running short, frequent meets that don't need to be sanctioned, that get these kids up and excited to race and compete against their kids and their groups.
Yeah, that's right. We say high frequency of swim meets, short duration. High frequency, short duration. Let me repeat that. High frequency of swim meets, short duration. Make them fast, make them fun, make them team-based in the right ways. In and out in 2 hours, in-house, during the practice session. Parents know where to drop off. Parents know when to pick up. It doesn't change the rhythm of family life that week. They go to practice, but guess what? Practice today is a structured play session. Here are the 3 events we're doing. We're going to have music playing. We're going to invite the parents to demonstrate the benefits, coaches, so the parents can receive the benefits so they can stay in your program. They engage with that more than practice, guaranteed. We see it all the time, and the kids have a blast.
Yeah. And again, these shouldn't be sanctioned. These are get up and race in place of practice. Have fun, make it feel like a Friday night lights game, not the Olympic trials.
Yeah. Now, when Hayes says they shouldn't be sanctioned, we mean they shouldn't be sanctioned. What we mean by that is you run a business, you have a Parks and Rec facility, you have a traditional year-round coach-owned team, a board-owned team, a swim school, etc. You don't answer your business financial solvency is not dependent on whether 6 officials are going to come down from on high and bless and anoint your swim meet. This is simply you running your program, and you should have all the power, the resources, and all the equipment that you need to make it an integral part of that value-driven proposition that your parents can see and your swimmers can feel.
Yeah, I mean, these are the types of meets and races, competitions that kids will remember. I mean, they don't remember their time in a 50 free from when they were 9 at a big meet, but I promise you they will remember the relay at practice where they all jumped in the pool after and celebrated. Like, I can tell you, I personally remember as many summer league moments as I do probably my competitive college swimming moments.
That's right. That's right. A focused hour beats 3 distracted hours every time.
Yeah. So for coaches, what if we capped 12 and under practices at 3 days a week during the school year? What would happen? I don't know.
Maybe high quality. One of those is a play session, teaching the skills, playing the skills, teaching the skills, playing the skills, letting them race, giving them room to take ownership and practice via that play session, via that competition. I know you got to give them some rope there, coaches. I know you got to trust your swimmers. You got to empower them. You got to allow them to take ownership, but that's how they get better.
Yeah. I mean, because here's what happens when you train kids less but better, they'll improve faster and stay longer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got to think of it in terms of you're always going to have the groups and the training that we've always had, right? The top of the pyramid. But you've got to create this program underneath this track that allows swimmers to participate in this cyclical rhythm, And when they're ready, they can shoot into that higher level track, if you will, if you want to think about it that way. But it's not, oh, you guys are going to be over here in this group, and it's the kids that don't take things seriously and then they peter out. Everyone has a 13-year-old group like that where it's like, oh, you're not going to be in the senior group, so you're going to be in the slow group or whatever. And these kids know it, and they're made to feel like they did something wrong, or it's like, well, I don't want to swim. I don't want to swim 6 days a week. So like, why are you making me feel like I'm being put in the corner over here? And so you got to change that, and you got to make that a part of your base. It needs to be a program down here where they're learning leadership skills. They're helping to operate meets with the younger kids. It is a holistic growth and development for these athletes, instead of just saying, you don't want to train 6 days a week, twice a week. Well, that's fine. We'll still take your money, but we're just going to go put you in the corner with the part-time 20-year-old coach over here that shows up late to practice. Like you know what I'm talking about. Like, it's a
Oh,
bad
100%.
model, and
Yeah.
people do it all the time. And parents know, and that's why you lose those swimmers.
Yeah, and I would just say let the families choose without guilt. Make it clear that the kids can switch the tracks like you mentioned. This isn't a permanent decision at age 8. If they want to
Right.
be in this group where it's, less practices, a lot more competition, hopefully a lot more races, then let them choose that at a young age. They'll switch the tracks when they're ready, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. So give the parents a couple of pointers here before we go, Hayes.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say with your kids, one, I'd recommend having a monthly check in with them. Ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, how much are you loving swimming right now? And if they say anything below a 6, I don't know, dig deeper. I would
Yeah.
try that.
Yeah. Yeah. Number two is not in front of your kids, but count the hours, add them up, at night once the kids go to bed, add up the structured sport activity your kid had this week, practice, games, lesson, include travel, sitting in the car. If it's more than a threshold, maybe 8 to 10 hours for especially a younger kid under 12, it's too much, because remember, structured sport activity, there's also unstructured sport activity. If you let an 8-year-old boy loose in the cul-de-sac at home, he's not in structured sport activity, but you better believe he's in unstructured sport activity. You're going to look out 60 minutes later and there's going to be a hockey net set up, or he's going to be running around or riding his bike. Like, these things are just as important at that early age as the structured. So maybe a healthy balance of unstructured and the structured.
Yeah, and I'd say one more, just give them a choice. Ask them if, for example, if they had a free Saturday, what would you want to do?
Yeah.
And if swimming isn't anywhere on the list, I would listen to that, and I'd probably talk to them about making a change or seeing where you can help them most.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's one red alert, red flag parents. If your swimmer needs a break, if they come to you and they ask for some sort of break, whether it's that practice, whether it's that season, and you tell them no, you lost them.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Training hard is easy. Training smart, I would say, is the art.
Say it again. Say it again.
Training hard is easy. Training smart is the art, folks.
All right. So we see this pattern all the time with, we work with thousands of different teams, Summer League, YMCA, Parks and Rec, etc. We hear the same story over and over. Kid does Summer League. Maybe they do a fall season at the Y. They go to the JCC, one of these recreational fall seasons or winter seasons. They're improving, but it's seasonal. It's not their whole life. And somewhere around 12 or 13, 14, something starts to click. Again, they've pulled the reins back, and they've held the reins back. The swimmer wants something more, and they start asking for more. That's the indicator when you know. That's the moment when they're ready to commit to something more serious.
Yeah, and the great thing is, I mean, to that point, it's really a kid-led decision and drive. Like a desire for from the swimmer to make that decision, I'd say is the biggest key point there, not a
Yep.
mandate from mom or dad. I mean, again, there is a fine line. Like you do want to push them in the right way, but don't make it so mandated and forced where it'll drive them away quickly. And they're choosing swimmingly. Hopefully they're choosing swimmingly, but they're choosing swimming not because their parents told them to at the end of the day, like at age 7, but
Yeah.
because they actually fell in love with it over time on the right timeline, choosing the right steps along the
Yeah, exactly. And then when they do that, they get better. They get better fast.
I bet they do, you know? I mean, Missy always says a happy swimmer is a fast swimmer.
That is true. You know, we had a coach reach out last year about it was Parks and Rec team in Texas, and she told us about the kid who did summer league. You know, younger, just summer league, held the reins back, just 3 months a year, having a blast, and then turns teenager, and again, initiated by the athlete, says, you know, I think I want to try year-round teams. So joined one of the club teams down there, and the rest is history, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. And we hear those stories all the time. And we obviously want to encourage parents to do the right things with their kids. I mean, we experience things as young swimmers and we just want to help share as much knowledge as we possibly can. And that is what we are here to do. So let's jump to
Hmm.
a little mindset shift. Little mindset shift.
All right. Shift our minds, Hayes.
So we've got, after all of this being said, we've got to shift the mindset here. The goal isn't to create the fastest 10-year-old, like we've been saying. Like you have those experiences where 10-year-olds are going to be smoking 11, 12, 13, and 14-year-olds, but that is not the goal.
Yep.
It's to create the 18-year-old swimmer down the road that is in love with the sport, that wants to keep loving the sport in college or swimming at the next level. That is the goal.
Yeah, that's right. The swimmer graduates high school and still wants to continue to compete or participate in the sport, be it club swimming or college swimming or masters or coaching. That's success. That's the sign of a healthy sport that has this feedback loop and this natural cycle of swimmers that learn, that were the mentees that become the mentors. And that's just a great marker of success.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think if your swimmers are absolutely loving the sport at 18, you did your job
Yeah.
without a doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. And probably those developmental coaches, because we talked to them, deserve more credit, deserve more of that spotlight. Because once that summer's 18, that coach that coached them from 16 to 18 is probably getting all the credit. But I think you guys can do a better job out there of really spotlighting and highlighting those developmental coaches that are just in it to win it with those 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds, because they are the source of your success.
Yeah, I mean, if they're choosing swimming at the end of the day, they love it, they're passionate about it, and you can't really coach passion. I'd say they've got to learn that, they've got to experience it themselves.
Yeah.
I'd say as coaches and parents, you can protect that for sure.
Right, right. Yeah, if we're nose to the grindstone as the universal mindset for the sport, we're going to lose the best ones before they even know what would be possible for them in the sport of swimming.
Yeah, the swimmers who could have gone to NCAAs or could have made Olympic trials,
Yeah.
they're probably quitting at 13 because we burned them out at age 8 or 9.
Yeah, and that's on us as a sport. That's the system that we need to recalibrate and then build upon. So, all right, every coach, parent listening, ask yourself honestly, let's honest question, are we building athletes for the long term, or are we chasing short-term retention and validation?
Yeah, that's a great question to ask. I mean, are we measuring success by improvement and joy or by medals and times that probably don't matter yet as a 8-year-old?
Right. And if your metrics are too singular in the growth of your program, add more metrics. One metric of swimmer time improvement doesn't have to be the one metric. And swimmers, your worth isn't measured in practice hours or medals. It's measured in how much you still want to be there. And it's measured by the relationships that you build with your teammates and your competitors, and your ability to then, as you get older in the sport, be a leader for those younger athletes. That's the true measure. That's a worthwhile measure of success in the sport.
Yeah, 100%. Swimming at the end of the day needs to be fun. It should absolutely build confidence, not anxiety. Again, like we talked about, multi sport athletes are the ones coming in that are super confident. They're less anxious. They're not as robotic because they're not only staring at a black line and a pool. That's not their only sport. They're getting out there and getting the feel for different sports.
So here's a challenge for you guys this week. Hayes has the challenge for you parents. Are you listening? Hayes, tell them about the challenge.
This week or today or whenever, we want you to do something that feels a little uncomfortable. I would say ask your kid what they would do if they've had a completely free Saturday, no practice, no meet, no obligations at all, just a day to do whatever they want.
Yep.
If they don't say swimming, even as one of the options, listen to that. Don't correct them. Don't say, well, you should want to go to practice. I would
Yep.
say just listen.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fun exercise because you got to let go a little bit. You know, they're used to structured play and structured training and structured meets, but allow them to structure their own day. How are they going to structure their play if it's given to them, and guide them depending on the age. You don't want, 8-year-old making decision about his entire day, but if they're in a position to really write that down or explain that to you, then lean into that. I think that's a good exercise. And they may
Yeah.
say, I want to go to practice, in which
Yeah.
case
I mean,
that's a great indicator.
yeah, and then I would ask yourself, is the childhood I'm giving my kid the childhood I remember having? Like, I think that's super important as well. Like, if you're the parent that's out there that's drilling them into the ground on getting to practice and working on this skill and that, like, did you have that? If you had that, did you enjoy it? Just ask yourself that.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
then
for the parents. I would say for the coaches, Charlie, you could probably tell them a million things, but what's an exercise they could walk away with?
one of the things that my coach did, and I was a professional, I was ranked top 10 in the world, but we did this: pick one practice this week, coaches, and end it 15 minutes early or begin it 15 minutes late. Just stop. Show them an inspiring clip on YouTube or your favorite scene from the motivational movie, sports movie, probably that trips your trigger. Maybe it's the hockey one from the whatever year that was. Maybe it's that hockey movie. Maybe it's a Miracle. There we go. Maybe it's
Yeah.
Miracle. Maybe it's Hoosiers. Oh my gosh. Maybe it's Remember the Titans. But maybe it's Days of Thunder. But show them that one motivational sports clip that connects you and them and that love of the sport. Say, hey, this is the thing that really inspires me and gets me going. But that moment to just pause, because we remember being an athlete. It's like, oh, we got to be why are we not in the water yet? Why are we not in the water yet? And if you just take a moment with those athletes to sit them down and do something intentional to connect with them in a motivational manner, perhaps it's what we would suggest, that, well, we got to get in the water, we got to get training, just starts to dissipate. And they remember you're the coach, you're in control, and you're also instilling this trust in them. We're going to get to our training in a minute. We're going to get to our practice. We're going to get to the competition. But right now, we're going to do this first. And I think that establishes your credibility and your authority as a coach. It allows them to trust you more, and it gives them ownership of what's to come. Fun challenge. Try it out sometime. Let us know what you think about it.
Yes. And if this made you think or maybe hit a nerve, the little one, share it. Reach out to us, send it to a coach or a parent or someone in your lane or one of your teammates. I mean, next week we're excited. We're going to keep talking about swimming topics, and we're hopefully going to help generate some conversation on how to improve the sport as a whole.
Yeah, exactly. This is not about being soft. I promise you, we have the credentials to back all of this up. This is about being smart. So send us your stories, DM us on Instagram at Swimmingly App, or comment, tag us on social. Tell us, did you try any of these things? What worked? Talk to us, and we'll see you out there on social.
Yeah. Till then, swim fast, have fun. We'll talk to you soon. Keep it swimmingly as always. Thanks for listening.